What is up, guys? Oko, Thief of Crowns. So, November 18th, 2019, the banned and restricted announcement list has came out, and we've seen three powerhouses in both Sultai and Simic food getting removed. Let's go ahead and dive straight into it. So for standard, Oko, Thief of Crowns, Once Upon a Time, and Veil of Summer are all banned, as well as Oko and Brawl, Ren and 6 in Legacy, and then Narset in Vintage has been restricted. But our main focus today is going to be in standard. Once Upon a Time is a little bit of a surprise to me. It is incredibly overpowered in the sense that you can mana fix your hand at the very opening hand. So if you open up with 1, maybe 2 mana, it kind of adds that third mana source, especially if you're running 3-4 colors. Kind of helps mana fix as well. Primarily for the food, it's also kind of guaranteeing the goose drop, as well as the fact that you can look at the top 5 cards of your library and choose one of them, creature or land, and put them in your hand for no mana is incredibly overpowered. However, I would say, in my personal opinion, I feel like goose is just a little bit more of a, if we're going to be banning cards, a little bit more of the ban side of it. But I kind of see where they're going with Once Upon a Time. Diving straight into standard, over the past several weeks, the standard metagame has been in an unhealthy state. Wizards been taking significant steps to rectify it. I'm talking a little bit about the dominance between Simic food decks featuring Oko and the overrepresentation of green in the competitive metagame. It's something I absolutely agree with, especially with things like Veil of Summer, being able to kind of stop the growth of control. We've seen like Simic Flash, really come out swinging, especially against food decks, but that's about as control as they're really going to see. You can kind of go into more creature removal control side of it with like Jund Sacrifice or Aristocats, but still, it's with the 70% decks that we've seen taking over the Mythic Championship that included Oko, Thief of Crowns, kind of goes to show how much of an impact it's showing on the metagame at the moment. During the top 8 at the Mythic Championship, Richmond, 6 out of 6 of those decks were all either Simic or Sultai food. One of which was, I believe, Selesnya Adventure, and I want to say Sacrifice, but I don't remember what the other deck was. But 6 out of the 8 were all Simic food, Simic or Sultai. The only real difference in there is removal for the Sultai side of it versus more of the control side with borrowers and mass manipulations and stuff like that for Simic. Oko, Thief of Crowns reduced metagame diversity and diversity of gameplay and standard by shutting off build around creatures and artifacts. So essentially kind of taking away creativity across archetypes and being able to build creative decks to kind of take over some of these bigger competitions. Ultimately, Oko's power level is proven higher than is healthy for the current metagame and higher than intended for future environments, including Theros, which is a set that we're going to be seeing come out in January, which I'm really excited about. I remember Theros is when I started getting back into it. But overall, when it comes to Oko, it's not necessarily just the card itself, as there is a lot of turn 2 interaction with planeswalkers, things like Noxious Grasp, stuff like that. The biggest issue was the synergy for green and what it has for Simic and Sultai. Things like Oko, Nissa, Goose, Questing Beast, Once Upon a Time, Wicked Wolf, they're just all those put together is just way too overpowered for any kind of archetype to really be competitive against. As well as the need to address green's general dominance, which is choosing to remove things like Once Upon a Time and Veil of Summer from the environment. Veil of Summer is something that we all kind of expected to be banned for 1 mana. They said it right, preventing the metagame from being able to self-correct. You're kind of stopping the birth of a lot of control decks, which generally speaking sounds like a great thing. Get rid of those freaking control decks. We don't need another Esper Teferi going on running rampant, but at the same time, for 1 mana being able to stop it, getting card draw, and then letting you cast whatever you want for the rest of the turn is incredibly overpowered. And it almost forces you to splash green into anything that you do build and which you get creative with. Once Upon a Time, I was saying before, it does help with hand fixing during your opening draw, as well as even mid to late game when you're kind of digging for answers. However, I'm still a little on the fence about whether or not that's the third one that needs to be banned. Like I said, I think a turn 1 goose going into a turn 2 3 drop is a little bit more overpowered. However, removing the Once Upon a Time also reduces your chances of opening up with a goose, so I can kind of see it. I guess it does make a little bit of sense. And then dive into the brawl with it being banned in tabletop for Oko. Sure. Ren in 6 for Legacy. Tamir Delver variants have become a dominant in Legacy and MTGO over the past weeks. Tamir Delver has maintained a 56.5% win rate and earned over 3 times as many 5-0 finishes in the next deck. Most importantly, has a favorable matchup against the other 10 most played cards. That's fair. Vintage, we've seen Narset get restricted. The next concept of fast mana, efficient draw available in Vintage. Narset is contributing to one-sided games at a higher degree than is healthy in order to reduce frequency in which an early Narset static ability soft locks the opposing player out of the game. Narset is, yeah, that's fair. So essentially whoever's on the play is going to end up taking the cake in Vintage, but we don't see a whole lot of that in the content that we're pushing out recently. The next BNR announcement is going to be at December 16th. That's something we can only speculate. We're going to have to see where the metagame goes. Off the top of my head, I don't even have any idea as to what could be banned or restricted at that point in Standard. I have some ideas for Modern that we could see, or even Pioneer. But for Standard, I think this is going to be a good move. I think we're going to see the birth of a lot more creative decks. I definitely think Jund is going to come out strong. And maybe Grixis. We're going to see the birth of a lot more control. But I got my money on Jund and Grixis at the moment. So, without further ado, appreciate you guys tuning in, and see you again very soon.